States you're going to need later today for the MLB slate. Just a programming note tomorrow. I will be on Grinders Live instead of this show tomorrow morning for the MLB slate. And we got tons of weather tomorrow for MLB as well. And then I will not be here Friday. I will not be here next Monday. I will not be here next Tuesday. Then I'll be back next Wednesday. I'll be away for the weekend. So I didn't die. I didn't get fired or anything like that. I always get DMs. Oh, are you dead? Oh, you're done. You're done with the RotoGrinders. No, I'm just going away for a little bit. But we brought in that Alex is under the weather today. So a day early, since we won't be doing a show together on Thursday, is Will Priester, Chief Justice 06, the head of the Chiefs prop shop in our Discord. And Will, we even though we're going to be doing a preview of the DFS slate for like cash games, top plays, high projected stuff, high owned stuff. We'll also talk a little bit about props at the end of the show, just to get everyone's fix in, especially for Prize Picks and Underdog. But this slate, we got 12 games, and as what has been going on in the NFL, we got some games that are like, oh, I'm interested in pieces of this game. And there are some games where, oh my God, is there anyone worth playing whatsoever? It's haves or have-nots type of thing. But I think the pricing on DraftKings, I think it's a little softer than usual. I think you're going to be able to like your lineup a little bit more than in previous weeks. But Will, is this slate really coming down to? Is this slate? It's odd for me to say it. Especially in the state where you are, your home team. Andy Dalton, are the Panthers back?
So, Blender, it's so funny you mentioned this because from a sports book perspective, I've really been sitting here trying to figure out how in the world the Bengals could be such favorites in Carolina when they're a team that hasn't won any football games. And so Blender, and it's not like they've played the 49ers, the Lions, like these big juggernaut teams. Like, they've played New England. Now, they have played Kansas City, but, I mean, Blender, they got kind of exposed by Washington. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out why they're even favorites. Secondly, Blender, this is one of the highest total games of the week. Like that's the other thing. So their favorites on the road in this game is a high total. And I've been on record saying if you just got us some competent quarterback play, like we'd be able to at least move the ball and score some points. And lo and behold, Andy Dalton comes out and sets the world on fire with 300 plus yards. I don't know if we've had a 300-yard passer in 3 seasons. And that game was a dome game, but Dalton is at home. It looks like we lost Thielen for a bit there. And Deontay Johnson pretty much got number 1 wide receiver targets. Why am I bringing all of this up, Blender? Because on the other side, you've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, who's going to get wide receiver 1 targets. And Chase isn't even 8K. Deontay Johnson's 5,600. Andy Dalton, if you think there's a repeat on the horizon, he's 5,300. And you can stack this game with ease, no problem, and still get one of the other big guns. I'm hoping it doesn't go over owned. I think it's a good spot. Like Vegas thinks there's going to be some scoring here. I think there will be some scoring. And who knew the game of the week could feature the lowly Carolina Panthers, who may in fact be invigorated with Andy Dalton at the helm.
Right. The 1 and 2 Panthers have nearly a 22 implied team total, which is not horrible on this slate. And the 0-3 Bengals have the second highest team total on the entire slate with 26. The 0-3, yeah. So it's a 1 and 2 team versus an 0-3 team, 47.5 total. The highest total game is the Cardinals-Commanders game. Cardinals with the 27 implied team total, Commanders with the 23.5 implied team total. And let's lead that into quarterbacks. Based on our current our initial projections, because that's what we're doing here on Wednesday. We're just looking at first look. We haven't, our projections team hasn't made like adjustments for practice reports and everything. We just kind of like, okay, what is the baselines for everything? And then these projections will be updated throughout the week. You'll get this if you're a RotoGrinders Premium member. Sign up for NFL Premium, get $15 off your first month, and you'll get all this. You get our ownership projections. You get obviously all of our tools like Lineup HQ, like SimLabs, all the things, all the premium content, all the written content that you'll need to build your lineups. The Gridiron IQ for any research that you need to do on the NFL data. So you get that all. NFL Premium, $15 off by clicking on the link in the description below. But at quarterback, I mean, I'm the two highest projected quarterbacks from a salary adjusted value standpoint. And probably the most owned quarterbacks of the week are going to be out of that Commanders Cardinals game. You got Jaden Daniels at 6,500. You got Kyler Murray at 6,800. And to be fair, in this day and age where only Andy Dalton is throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns,
unbelievable,
right? Pocket passers, are not as valuable when a lot of them score somewhere between 15 and 20 points, 250 and 2, that type of thing, that these rushing quarterbacks like Daniels and Murray are just worth so much more, because like 40 yards rushing is essentially a passing touchdown.
Right.
So you don't need 300 yards. I mean, Jaden Daniels could go 180 yards passing with 1 touchdown and 60 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. And they beat out most of the other pocket passers. And Kyler Murray, you could say the same thing. So,
can I mention something about Kyler Murray while we're on that specific game?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been very, I'm going to call it impressed and surprised at the same time, Blender, that Kyler Murray is actually running as much as he is. So I really didn't expect Kyler Murray to kind of be a guy that's almost leading the charge in rushing, but secretly, Blender, he's the new Lamar Jackson. What am I saying? Blender, in his 3 games this year, 57, 59, and 45 rushing yards. Now we were just 3 games in, but why am I bringing that up? If you compare that to last season, we just didn't see that consistently. Like he'd have a 60-yard game and then maybe a 20-yard game. But like if he's going to consistently give us 40 yards rushing, like now he's the Lamar Jackson. He's the like, you get what I'm saying? He's a much more stable rushing option if we're going to get 40 to 50 week to week to week. And then for him, he's typically probably going to throw for 200 plus and a touchdown or 2. So like I think he's really becoming a good option this season if this is how they're going to utilize him, because Lamar's going to consistently be 7,500 plus, and we're still getting him under 7K.
Right. No, I agree with you. And another person that fits that bill, a little bit more expensive, is Jalen Hurts at 7,200, facing the Buccaneers, who, I mean, the Eagles. If the thing about Hurts, Hurts has less rushing yards typically than guys like Daniels and Murray, but he benefits so much on the goal line.
Yeah.
Like his touchdown upside is so much more. The thing about Hurts on this slate, though, is that do you want to play Jalen Hurts on the road if A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are both out, and he has to throw the ball to Paris Campbell and Jahan Dotson and hope that Dallas Goedert is open? I get the sense that, when I could get Jaden Daniels for 6,500, Kyler Murray for 6,800, I'm going to pay up for those guys rather than go all the way to Hurts. Only because, like, in a situation where both of those guys are out, I just feel like the Eagles may just rely much more on Saquon Barkley than have Jalen Hurts throw the ball to essentially receivers that have been cut from other teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big deal. I definitely, and let me just say, I think Barkley's going to be involved no matter who's suiting up, because they seem to have Barkley is Christian McCaffrey this year. I'm saying just from a comparative season over season. Like, why do people draft Christian McCaffrey in best balls like number one typically? Because they felt like he was going to get the rushing upside and the passing upside. Like, he's just going to get so much volume. It's hard to
also Will McCaffrey plays 90+% of snaps.
Yeah.
And we've seen this season with the Eagles, like Kenneth Gainwell and Shipley are just like guys on the bench to stand in when Barkley wants to take a breath. Like, they're really not involved at all.
Right. And so as a result, like, you're getting Saquon Barkley in an elevated role, which is like comparative to Christian McCaffrey. And if he's going to continue to get this kind of volume, ironically, Blender, you could pair Hurts and Barkley and just about capture all of their ownership. I mean, all of their production. All of their production as the lineup is constructed right now. So I'm not saying when Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are there. I'm saying with this team and this type of construction, Jalen Hurts and Saquon are going to get almost all the touchdowns. And even if a receiver goes for four catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown, like, it won't matter. Jalen Hurts is still probably going to outscore him because of the rushing. He might get a rushing touchdown. And so I'm bringing that up because I do like Hurts this week. As of right now, once again, it's early. The projections look like people like Hurts more than Kyler Murray. I don't think that's the case by Sunday. I feel like Hurts is a much lower owned quarterback, and that also probably depends on the injury situation with the receivers. But I still think Murray and Daniels pick up some ownership here. But if they don't, Blender, then I think Murray and Daniels are incredibly valuable for tournaments if the ownership's not going to pick up on them.
The last quarterback I want to talk about that I haven't brought up on the show this year, the offense is not sexy, but he does fit the bill. Maybe he hasn't shown as much of the upside in his legs that could be based on, how the Steelers are running their offense.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to play teams against the Colts when in the dome.
Mm-hmm.
This is like it's almost like in NBA. This is like a pace up spot because the Steelers play slow.
Yeah,
but the Colts play
attack
very
Indiana every year.
Right.
We just keep attacking that game. Yeah, I got you.
Indiana plays at one of the fastest paces. The Bears got off like 90 plays. I mean, like Caleb Williams had 50-something dropbacks.
He threw for over 300 when all the other games he couldn't crack 200.
Right. So I know the total is low, but at 5,500, I mean, like, if I'm going to pay down at quarterback, like, I want to pay for like efficiency plus, like, I want to get some rushing or whatever. Maybe the Colts defense is not good. I mean, they have guys out also. Yeah. I mean, the Colts have not played very good teams. I mean, when they play Malik Willis and the Packers, I mean, that's not a real team, right?
Well, the Packers were supposed to be good, and I think Matt LaFleur found a way to help Malik Willis be successful this past week. You get what I'm saying? Like,
But if Jordan Love's back, it's not the same team. But I mean, I don't mind Fields at 5,500. Am I expecting a nuclear old school Chicago Bears Justin Fields 42-point fantasy point game with 160 yards rushing? No. But at a lower price point, they're favored. I mean, Pittsburgh is favored in this game on the road. I really don't mind. I don't mind the Steelers even.
And they probably should be because their defense is actually good. That's the difference. Right. Like, their defense is actually a really good defense. Let me ask you this, Blender, in terms of Fields, because I do think this is important. If I told you today, Fields threw for 180, one passing touchdown, rushed for 50, and one rushing touchdown.
Oh, I'm locking him in. Oh, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Do the points. I mean, for those at home, do the points. I mean, 180 yards. That's like 7 yards. That's 7 points passing, right? Plus a passing touchdown makes it 11.
11.
Plus 60 rushing yards that's 6 points. That's 17. And then the rushing touchdown is 6 points. So that's 23 points.
23 points.
He's in. I mean, come on.
And Blender, I'm so glad you did the math for people, because here's why I brought it up the way I did. With the rushing quarterbacks, we don't care about the passing yards. We want them, but what do we really want, Blender? We want the rushes on the ground and the rushing touchdown. If you get that just brought their floor way up for that particular slate. And now, like you said, they get that. They don't even have to crack 200. Like the rushing quarterbacks don't have to crack 200 yards passing to flash real upside. And now, Blender, what happens if he stumbles into 2 rushing touchdowns?
Plus, or even two passing touchdowns, even with 180 yards, you're 27 points, and they're 5,500. Like Josh Allen will score 34 points, but he's like 7,800. So it's like he better score that many points. But for 5,500, imagine having receiver. We always play these 5K receivers, 5K whatevers. Imagine a 5K receiver giving you 24 fantasy points.
And we've seen that every week so far, just about.
Right.
Yeah, every week. I'm with you. Like that's, and so I know sometimes, like from a stat perspective, Blender, like you hear 180 yards and a touch, like that doesn't sound sexy, but trust me, it's piling up points when these guys are running into the end zone and using their leg to pick up stats. And I'm using that to cement. I feel like, which is a slight theme of this show, the value in the rushing quarterback is tremendous for DFS. Tremendous.
Let's get to running backs. Top running back on the board as of now in our initial projections. McCaffrey's out. Debo's out. Kittle may be out again. The 49ers are the biggest favorites still. 10-plus point favorites at home against the Patriots. I don't think this is a very sexy game. I think it's going to be a slow game, but I still think Jordan Mason at 6,700 is still underpriced. You typically want to play favored teams at home with 10-plus favorite as running backs, and are they going to need to air the ball out, the 49ers? I don't think so. 6,700. Jordan Mason in this role is probably an 8K running back. But we do also have, Kyron Williams, 7,300 against Chicago. Bijan Robinson, 7,400 against New Orleans. Breece Hall, 7,800 against Denver. We got, obviously, Barkley at 8K. Kamara at 7,600. I feel like this week, we're much more likely to spend up once or twice in high-end range for running backs. I think there's much more wide receiver value on this slate than running back value, but we've seen this year that you really need to get 15-plus points out of your running back spots in order to at least have competitive lineups. You can't sit there with a dud 8-point running back. I'm much more inclined to. I'm less in on Kyron Williams, even though the usage is obviously there. I just don't think the Rams are good, and they're heading into Chicago to play against the Bears defense. And Bijan, I think it's high variance is a better way to put it. I think he's good for GPPs, but I don't know if I'm going to have him in my cash lineup. Breece Hall, I think they're home favorites, 23 implied total. They're a touchdown favorite against the Broncos. Of course, you have to worry a little bit about Braylon Allen stealing some touches. He's looked good. Out of these 4 running backs that I've just mentioned, I'd probably rank Mason 1, Hall 2, Williams 3, Robinson 4 from a cash, low variance perspective. But it's quite possible that I just play Mason with like one of Barkley or Kamara and not even have to worry about the 7K running backs and just like punt at tight end somewhere and defense, and like I could fit those guys in. I'm not sure if you're paying up at wide receiver this week. So I may prioritize getting 2 higher priced running backs.
I get it. Let me ask you a question, Blender. And so first of all, this isn't going to be apples and apples and oranges, okay? So I'm fully admitting that right now for a reason. So this makes sense. What do we think Chuba Hubbard is better than Mason?
I was going to get to you ruined it. I was eventually going to go from this to go over. You skipped ahead because Chuba Hubbard isn't in that price range. So Chuba Hubbard's 5,700.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have Zach Moss at 5,900 with the Bengals favored over the Panthers. Below, got Chase Brown in there mixing in. So, I'm not all that convinced that Zach Moss is in the passing game. We also have like Aaron Jones at 6,400 in the obvious revenge game against the Packers. I don't mind that either. But like Chuba Hubbard, to me, is in a different conversation. Like Chuba Hubbard is like, do I play like Mason plus Barkley plus Hubbard? Or do I play like another like 5K wide receiver that is Hubbard's price? Like that.
Well,
I don't know if Hubbard is in the same conversation. But are you in agreement that between like Kyron Williams, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, they'd much rather play Barkley and Kamara over like Williams, Robinson?
Oh yeah,
Hall?
Yeah. I mean, Barkley, that volume Barkley's getting right now, it's too much. So I can't, in good conscience, play him over some or not play him over some of these other guys. Listen, for what it's worth, Breece Hall, his value's in the passing game now. Like he hadn't really gotten it done on the ground, but he's getting about 4 or 5 targets a game, which helps him. I'm fine with Hall as well, for what it's worth. But like if I had to choose, I'm probably going to take Barkley. I trust his role a little bit more with this team.
Mari asked about Bucky Irving. I mean, we're not talking about tournaments, but no, I would not. What's the upside about like you want? Can Bucky Irving get 30 fantasy points? No, not with on what 7 touches or something. Like you don't want to play. It's a 12-game slate. If it's a 2-game slate, that's a different story. You played Austin Eckler on the 2-gamer on Monday night. That's a different. Yeah, I'm not playing guys that don't even get double-digit touches at running back. Is there anyone else at running back that you're looking at as far as like chalky, high projected owned? Because I think the chalk is going to be Mason, Barkley, Kamara, Hubbard, then like Hall, and then like Williams, and then Aaron Jones will be double digit in that range also.
Yeah, I think we're trying to predict her. Like I said, our projections clearly aren't fine tuned. Like we just know Mason and Kamara are going to pick up a ton of ownership. We don't feel like Barkley's going to pick up a bunch of ownership, which is
no. The ownership. This is the ownership from last week. Don't go by the owner. The ownership isn't updated. Okay, don't.
So let me say this too. I feel like Josh Jacobs should pick up some ownership here because he's also been getting just tons of volume. I know last week, like he only had 14 attempts, but like I think his volume is going to be there as this team continues to progress. And if we get Love back, I think his volume is going to pick back up tremendously because Love isn't going to be out there running around trying to create plays with his legs consistently. Just want to bring that up. And that should be another game where we see a little bit of scoring back and forth also.
Let's get to wide receiver. You mentioned Jamar Chase, obviously getting wide receiver 1 targets. We're a 26.5-point implied team total. Burrow-led Bengals, who are still 0-3. But if I had to choose, truthfully, I think Rashee Rice at 7,300. I think
Why is he 8K this week?
Rashee Rice. I'm gonna before Cardi says it on the Blitz, because you're gonna be on the Blitz show. Based on his usage, Rashee Rice is the new Michael Thomas. But also in that semblance, Patrick Mahomes is the new Drew Brees, because Patrick Mahomes ain't throwing for 300 yards anymore. But Rashee Rice's usage, I mean, these like 8-yard slants that Kelsey clears out for, like, dude, it's like a DFS gold mine. Like 8 for 100. Like, it's one of these things where, remember, Michael Thomas would always project for, like, why is his median 26? It's like, yeah, when you're getting like 15 targets that are highly catchable, they're not like bad targets from a really good quarterback, and they're all like 8-yard, 9-yard passes, and like 1 or 2 of them are end zone targets. It's like, it just sets up for a 10-101 game, like
almost every game. Right. Almost every game. Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you. And Blender, I want to say now, Blender, this is me throwing in a IKB statement. This is an IKB statement. For those of you that don't know, I know ball. That's our thing on this show here. The other night, if you watched the game, Travis Kelce, Blender, ran kind of a seam route and then a breakout side. So what he did, he went up the seam, he faked inside, the safety bid on it, and he broke outside and he was wide open. And guess what Patrick Mahomes did? He threw it right to Rashee Rice underneath for like a 6-7 yard pass to get the first down and keep moving the chains. Had he thrown it to Kelce, it was probably a touchdown. Why am I bringing this up, Blender? There's a reason.
You're bringing it up because he's not looking at Kelce as a number 1 target anymore.
Correct. If this was last season, Mahomes is firing that thing to the end zone, and Kelce's probably getting a 20-30 yard touchdown completion. This year, Rashee Rice, and I bring this up because you talked about the type of targets, and that's what I'm honing in on here. Rashee Rice isn't running down the field like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, trying to catch 50 and 60 yard, fly patterns. I mean, almost everything he catches is across the field, safe stuff. He doesn't, and I think too, Glenn, if you watch him, he doesn't really have any defenders on him for most of these catches right away. They might be close, but they're not like blanketing him. And so for him to still be 7,300, I think is a little rough. Like Justin Jefferson, and I've gone on record saying I felt like Justin Jefferson's production wasn't going to drop. And it kind of hasn't, because he's had all this touchdown equity for the past few weeks. And also, Minnesota hasn't had to play a whole football game yet. Like, they've got short fields, run away with the score. So, like, I still think Jefferson's upside is real. But I'm bringing this up because Jefferson is 8,700 with nowhere near the type of volume on paper that Rashee Rice has, and Rashee is 73. He's still clearly one of the best plays this week.
Going in the mid-range, I mean, obviously, if A.J. Brown is out and Devontae Smith is okay, 7,100 Devontae Smith looks pretty decent. But then we got, Chalk City, Mr. Brickhands for the 49ers, Mr. I want to make a lot of money and still drop passes. It's going to be the same 49ers lineup that it was, let's say we assume Kittle's out again. I know Jawan Jennings put up a 50 burger with 3 receiving touchdowns, but are we going back to 6,400 Brandon Ayuk? And then the other guy is Deontay Johnson at 5,600, because if Thielen's on the IR, they got like Mingo and Leggett. They got guys that Thielen is the only player on their receiving core that could run the type of routes that Johnson typically does. Everyone else is just like clear out wide receivers and like fly pattern, they're running far. They're clearing out, whatever.
Yeah.
The Panthers have a 22 implied team total. This could be a game where Deontay Johnson gets 15 targets. The Panthers aren't great, but I mean, from a median perspective,
Blender. Who says we aren't great? We don't know yet. We got to see a little bit more Andy Dalton. Listen, I've written the Panthers off with Bryce Young. Okay, I'm going on record. Bryce Young at the helm. I said, hey, our season's over. Andy Dalton has given us some life, Blender. Don't fight me on this.
You're going 5-12 or something. You're like, it's still. You're not
we don't know that. We Blender, this is the most I've smiled about the Panthers in 3 seasons. Okay, so let's just. But nah, I get it. I'm with you though on Johnson and these guys. Like, I think we want to just continue to play guys that are going to get massive amounts of targets. And I know we just saw a situation where Tampa Bay kind of laid a stinker, but it seems like Chris Godwin and his targets are real. Like, I mean, this feels like a real thing this season also. And he's still 6,800. And the 6K wide receivers have pretty much been winning people tournaments, or the 6K and lower 7K. Like, they've been winning people tournaments every week so far. And I think that continues this week. When you look at Godwin had, let's call it a down week, Blender. But he still had 9 targets and 6 catches, 60-something yards and a touchdown. Like, and that was a bad week for the Buccaneers. So I'm still in the Godwin. I'm still in the Ayuk. One of the things we saw with Ayuk, Blender, in the 6K range was the volume was there. So it's not like Jawan Jennings got 17 targets and he got like 5. I mean, he had 10 targets. He just had 5 catches. Like, he converts 2 or 3 more of those and a touchdown. And, it takes one of those away from Jennings. Jennings is still better, but like, we feel better about, playing him, in such a massive amount of lineups. It's the same situation. I think we go right back to the well with Ayuk.
Are there other receivers in the range that maybe are kind of cash viable? I mean, you could go back to Chris Olave at 6,500 against Atlanta in the Dome.
I think Drake London is actually okay.
Drake London. I mean, you got Drake London, you got Tank Dell, you got Christian Kirk, you got Amari Cooper, Nico Collins. There's going to be, I mean, to me, these are
Higgins at 5,900.
Right. I want to play a lot of these types of receivers. Like, the likelihood of me paying like 8K, 9K for a receiver this week is low. I'm just going to be playing a lot of these types of guys. At tight end, though, we currently have Trey McBride projected in. That may not happen. I mean, I don't think he plays. Evan Ingram is going to probably be back. We got Brock Bowers up there at 5,600. Dallas, is the thing that if AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are out, I mean, do we just pay up 5,100 for Dallas Goedert because
I think you consider it heavily. I think you consider it heavily because at that point, in my mind, he's going to get at least 8 targets in this game. You get what I'm saying, Blender? Like, I'm not saying he goes like nuclear for like 15, but I think 8 is reasonable. He had 11 in the previous game, Blender. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to overshoot it, but I think 8 targets is reasonable. Any tight end getting 8 targets, I think we sign up at 5K. So we just have to hope his ownership didn't get out of control, but I think he'd be a really good play at 5,100.
Right. I like continuing on the Steelers bandwagon. I like Pat Freiermuth at 3,900. But I mean, if you're playing cash games, I mean, if you end up punting down to a 3K tight end that gets 2 points, you may not be in bad shape anyway because tight end kind of sucks. So, Will, to close out the show, since we're not going to do a show tomorrow, I'll be on Grinders Live for MLB, but not like a props and pick'em show. You want to give out some, especially on Wednesday when it's early, any props or like especially prize picks or underdog that you have your eye on early?
Okay, yes. So I do have some, and I know we typically go like, passing, rushing, receiving. I'll just give out some. So Kirk Cousins at 221.5 passing yards. I want more than that projection, Blender. Going to be a dome game. I expect, both these teams to score points. I don't think the Saints offense fell off a cliff last week. I think that's fine. This one is for Monday night, but I'm bringing it up anyway. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 74.5 receiving yards. Look out, folks. The Seattle Seahawks are undefeated and scoring points. And so if Detroit's got to score points, then at some point Amon-Ra is going to be involved. At 74.5, I think that's a touch too low. This line should probably be 80.5 easily. Now I know he's only cleared that like once this season, but his body of work suggests that 74.5 is a touch too low. It probably should be more like 89.5, to be honest, Blender, if I'm really counting. This for the Thursday night game, I've got Devin Singletary at more than 14 rushing attempts. This is just me saying as much volume as Malik Neighbor is getting. If the Cowboys continue to not be able to stop anyone on the ground, I don't see why Coach Dable wouldn't continue to give Singletary opportunities. Been hovering in around 16 anyway. And then Josh Jacobs, more than 15 rushing attempts. And Zay Flowers in the Buffalo game, more than 4.5 receptions. Those are my 5 that I have queued up for the week already.
Right, and you can get more of that in Chiefs Prop Shop in our Discord, which is free. So sign up there, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Just connect your RG account, which could just be a free account. You don't have to worry about paying. Get into the Chiefs Prop Shop in the Discord. Will, what other content do you have coming out this week for NFL?
I'll be on the Blitz Show. And then, of course, you guys know I will be on NFL Crunch Time on Sunday. And those are my main 2. And the Showdown Show on Sunday night. So come hang out. Should be fun.
Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Tomorrow I'll be on still 11 a.m., but it'll be for MLB Grinders Live. And then I'll be off Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. And I'll see you back here on a Wednesday to preview week 5 in the NFL. Get your premium subscription for RotoGrinders at rotogrinders.com/premium, or click on the link in the description. And I will see you back again tomorrow, and then Wednesday, as I'm usually here, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.